My friends, we have a problem. And the problem to which I refer is this. The United States of America is nearing the point of no return when it will no longer be a safe place for the Jew. Some may respond, no place has ever been safe for the Jew. And this is true. The Jewish individual has faced oppression and persecution in every place which has been called home. Indeed, the land of Egypt, which at one time welcomed Israel and his descendants, becomes a place for oppression and enslavement for them when a, quote, new king arose who knew not Joseph. And he is fearful of their size, their success, and that they might move against him despite their historic commitment to his leadership. But in America, the Jewish people found a home, much like those early days in the land of oppression. The individual Jew may have been blocked from country clubs, from hotels, and other certain activities and professional groups. Yet the Jewish people were welcomed and offered sacred protection by the laws and the ideals of a nation which judged all people as potentially worthy, regardless of their religion. America was, for the Jewish people who came to her shores, a promised land. And some may respond that I am an alarmist. And I pray in generations to come, if anyone cares to reflect on these words, that they will wonder at my remarkable inability to truthfully perceive the future. The United States of America has for 245 years striven to live up to the promises that George Washington made to the Hebrew congregation of Newport when he said, "The government of the United States, which gives to bigotry no sanction, to persecution no assistance, requires only that they who live under its protection should demean themselves as good citizens in giving it on all occasions their effectual support." Individual citizens have at times sought to destroy Jews, and the Jews have faced plenty of persecution within these borders. But today we must no longer restrict our worries solely to the risk of personal, individual attack by rabid anti-Semites who have been a present force in this country since it began. We must now simultaneously recognize that the direction of this country and its political factions is bending towards becoming an unwelcome place to any Jew. The United States of America is nearing the point of no return when it will no longer be a safe place for the Jew qua Jew. Much has been made this week of the attack upon the U.S. Capitol building on Wednesday, a desecration in so many ways. Much has been made by way of comparison between the activity of this week and the rioting, looting, and violence of last summer. I do not mean to draw any particular equivalency. I'm not smart enough or capable enough to be the one who evaluates such things, but I will draw two lines between them. Firstly, in both instances, laws were broken, laws which maintain order and which underpin American society as a place where civil discourse solves disagreements rather than violence, which, by the way, creates a safe place for the Jewish people. And at the same time, neither moment lived up to the kind of nonviolent speech activity which Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who we celebrate next weekend, would utilize in his leadership to promote change in this country. And the second line I would draw between the two, the connective tissue which is linked to the first, but which is more deeply disconcerting for us as Jews, is the anti-Semitism present in both. An anti-Semitism which is rooted in fear, hatred, and misplaced anger about the situation in which each group has found themselves. And it has long been the strategy of those who would wish to see us dead that we should become the scapegoat, and it comes as no surprise. What makes this time different is the sense of legitimacy granted to blatantly outward and insidious anti-Semitic views on all sides of the political spectrum, the willingness of both to violate the laws which have been designed to keep us safe. In her reflection on the Pittsburgh synagogue massacre, Ruth Weiss wrote in October 2018, quote, "Even as we try to comfort the mourners and suggest better security measures, we must stop the scourge before a full-fledged anti-Semitic politics emerges in America under the unifying banner of intersectionality. Anti-Semitism is the only ideology that can unite the far left and far right. Its success would signify America's failure," end quote. For a while, hatred, bigotry was hidden. It festered, as it always does, but it was undercut because it was out of fashion, unpopular, and therefore condemned. But now hating us is in again. It is all the rage. For many years, the anti-Semitic presence within the far left and the far right has been gaining in strength and legitimacy along the spectrum of American politics. Is it any wonder that, like the frog slowly boiling in the pot, we now look up and see that we are, in fact, about to boil? That the vice is closing in on us from both sides? I may be an alarmist, but I am sounding an alarm. Yes, the Proud Boys and NSC 131, neo-Nazis, among so many other known anti-Semitic hate groups were present in Washington on Wednesday. The anti-Semitism present on the left, by the way, is sometimes said for what it is by the Farrakhan's and the Jeremiah Wrights, who take their Jew hatred just as honestly and as seriously as those neo-Nazi groups. But often it is hidden on the left by the facade of anti-Israel politics, an insidious attempt to espouse a hate that is not just a lie about the hatred of the Jews to others, but is a lie to many who say they just hate Israel, but not the Jews, a lie to themselves as well. I put this forth to you today not as an attempt at political analysis. I have no desire to analyze politics and to have proven myself over these few years, haven't been a rabbi for that long, completely incapable of speaking effectively to either side of America's political spectrum. And I honestly don't care about this or that political person or party. What I care about, and what we all must care about as Jews, are about those words etched in the U.S. Capitol building: union, justice, tolerance, liberty, and peace, irrespective of the names of the people who espouse them. I put this forth to you today as an American Jew, and as a rabbi who sees progress in the efforts of those who would wish to see the term American Jew become an oxymoron. The time is at hand. So what is the answer? It is not to abandon the American Jewish endeavor, but to double down. It is not to move to Israel or to some other foreign country, but to fight even harder in our insistence that America succeed. And so what is success? Success is a place where people who disagree talk, compromise, negotiate laws, and change laws to adapt. A place where our system operates as it was meant to, where some people speak and other people listen, and change happens to make for an ever more perfect union. This problem is not new, and the answer is not new. And I'm grateful to those who directed me to Rabbi Meir Soloveitchik's talk this week, as he referenced Abraham Lincoln's Lyceum speech of 1838. The time had come when those who'd founded the country, those who fought in its revolution, were gone. Their lives had been a testament to the country's values, but they were no more. And in response, he said, they were the pillars of the Temple of Liberty, and now they have crumbled away. That temple must fall, unless we, their descendants, supply their places with other pillars, hewn from the solid quarry of sober reason. Passion has helped us, but can do so no more. It will in the future be our enemy. Reason, cold, calculating, unimpassioned reason, must furnish all the materials for our future support and defense. Let those materials be molded into general intelligence, sound morality, and in particular, a reverence for the Constitution and laws. Now, in his address as well, Lincoln reminds us all that it was at the time of the Revolution that there was much anger and hate, and the rage of the nation was directed at the British. But now, in his own time, he sees it turn one citizen against another, when it should be focused on what he would call the advancement of the noblest cause, that of establishing and maintaining civil and religious liberty. And so what is the answer he provides? What is the answer for us today? It is to, quote, let every American, every lover of liberty, every well-wisher to his posterity swear by the blood of the Revolution never to violate in the least particular the laws of the country, and never to tolerate their violation by others. Let every American pledge his life, Lincoln said, his property, his sacred honor. Let everyone remember that to violate the law is to trample on the blood of his father and to tear the character of his own and his children's liberty. Let reverence for the laws be taught in schools, in seminaries, and in colleges. Let it be written in primers, spelling books, and in almanacs. Let it be preached from the pulpit, proclaimed in legislative halls, and enforced in courts of justice. And in short, let it become the political religion of the nation. Let the old and the young, the rich and the poor, the grave and the gay, of all sexes and tongues, and colors and conditions, sacrifice unceasingly upon its altars. End quote. Now, of course, he reminds us in that same speech that there are bad laws, laws which must be repealed through the process established by the law as soon as possible. And he reminds us all that, quote, there is no grievance that is a fit object of redress by mob law, end quote. What Lincoln didn't know, but which we, the Jewish people, took on promise, is that this rational, just, and thoughtful way of approaching government and society is what created the land of promise for the Jewish people, and in fact, for all people. Bad laws needed repealing at his time, there is no doubt. And from the beginning of the creation of this country, America has not ever been perfect. But every citizen, by nature of their citizenship, promises to abide by the mechanisms built into the system to deal with imperfection, and breaking that promise, permitting hatred on both sides of our society to press in around us, is not only anti-Semitic, it is antithetical to the American ideal. The United States of America is nearing the point of no return when it will no longer be a safe place for the Jew. We must call our leaders to task and hold them accountable. We must vote with our feet and with our voices to give credibility to those who strive to live up to the words on the Capitol building. We must continuously stand up to remind the press of their responsibility to be forceful examiners for our sake of anyone to whom we grant power. We must fight for our place in this country because, my friends, 23 years after Lincoln spoke, too few listened, Confederate troops fired on Fort Sumter. And without significant radical cultural change in our country, about how we deal with our fears and our anxieties and our concerns, about how we deal with injustice and inequality, 23 years from now, we will look back and wish we had done things very differently. May Shabbat be a time for reflection on how we might make a larger difference in what is going on in our country. May Shabbat be a time for reflection on how we might create a different path for our society. May Shabbat be a reminder to pause so that we have the energy to get back to work and focus on how we might assist in ensuring that this country remains a land of promise for us, for our people, for any who would choose to live here. Shabbat Shalom.